there guys, and welcome back to the worst War Machine channel on the internet. I'm Mr. Malorian. Welcome back to Malorian Weekly, and today what we're going to be doing is starting a series on power attacks. So power attacks are something that's very unique to what warjacks and war beasts and horrors can do, but a lot of times people don't really think about them because they're not always the most obvious things to do. They're usually made for very corner cases. However, when those things come up, it can be massive. So we definitely want to cover those, make sure everybody knows how they work, because if you know how all the power attacks work, you're just going to be a better player. So I'm going to be covering one in every video, and today I'm going to be covering the head attack power attack. So the first thing to really cover about is we're going to be saying how the rule works, and then we're going to be talking about how you can actually use it in a game, where it's different tactical situations that these are going to be the right times to use this. So first of all, who can actually do these? Well, we said your warjacks, your war beasts, and your horrors, as long as you're not a lesser. So your colossals, your heavies, your lights, all of those can be doing this power attack, except for the lesser versions. As well, the big thing with these is that if you're a colossal, you're going to have a range of 2 inches for this, whereas if you are any of the others, it's ½ inch. So that's something that's really important to remember, is that it doesn't matter if you're normally a reach jack or a 4-inch reach colossal, those things don't matter. And as well, I mean, when we get to the other type of power attacks, whatever special rules you have on your arms don't apply to the power attack, but for this one, you're just headbutting them anyway, so nothing really applies there. So, okay, 2 inches if you're a colossal, ½ inch if you're anything else. And so what else do you actually have to actually do this headbutt? Well, pretty much you, for starters, can only do this to enemy models. So you can't go and headbutt your own friendly models. If there's actually weird times you'd want to do that, but you can't do power attacks to friendly. You'll get in range of that enemy model, and then in order to do a power attack, it's going to cost you 1 focus fury essence, depending on what you are. So you'll pay 1 to actually do this. It's going to replace all your initial attacks. You can buy attacks after, but that's going to replace it. Another important thing here too is you can't charge and do a power attack. So if you ever want to headbutt something, you can basically just do your regular movement and then that's it. Then you can go and do your power attack. So really important to understand how some of those things work, as opposed to like Thresher, where you could charge in and Thresher. So really important. The next thing that's important is that you actually have to hit your target. So after you spend that 1 focus or fury or whatever to make the power attack, you now have to actually hit. And then as long as you hit them, they're knocked down. Pretty straight and simple. Now, one of the things that it's good to remember with this is that you can't headbutt models with a larger base size. So lights can't headbutt the heavies, and really there's no reason for heavies to be headbutting colossals because you can't knock them down anyway, but something to keep in mind. Now, after you're done knocking them down, there actually is a damage roll. There's a power attack damage roll, and whenever you're doing this one, it's going to be 2d6 plus your strength, not the POW. So there's no POW added to this. I mean, a lot of times that means that you might not do any damage, but then again, if you're looking at some of these jacks, their strength can actually be pretty significant. So there's been quite a few times that people will roll and be like, yeah, I hit you, you're knocked down, and then want to move on. It's like, well, wait a second, you actually get some extra damage in there. Don't cheat yourself out of there. You actually get that roll on there. So just make sure you're only adding the strength, you're not adding the power of the weapon, because especially in this case, you're not using a weapon, you're just headbutting something. So that's really the rule right there. That's the models that can do it. That's the range you have to be. That's the way you can apply it. That's what actually happens. But why would you be doing this? Well, there's really these are the cases. You're knocking something down. So when you knock down a model, it is going to be automatically hit in melee and have defense 5 against shooting after that. So lowering its defense is one big thing to think about. Secondly, when a model is knocked down, it no longer blocks line of sight. So that's another big point. And the other thing that's important with knocking down is that they no longer engage. So let's go through these case by case, going from the easier ones and then getting to the harder ones. So the easiest one is for a line of sight. Let's say that there is a heavy that you cannot destroy normally, but I can just power attack this thing, knock it down, and if I need to see the caster that's hiding behind it, all of a sudden that jack doesn't block line of sight anymore and I can shoot through there. Or maybe there's a lot of other tasty support, choir, whatever it is behind this line. I might want to be sending over something to headbutt it to knock it down, and then I can shoot through. Now, of course, keep in mind, it would be lovely if you could do something like this with like a light knocking down a heavy. Again, remember that your lights can't knock down heavies because you don't go up. But that can be a very great thing to do. Or maybe you're trying to line up so the spell can go through. Whatever that is, remember that that could be a big way. Or if you can't kill it, you might be able to just knock it down and then can see through it. The next one is we talked about engaging. So why is that important? Well, let's say that you have a model that really wants to go over somewhere else. You can go and kill that enemy model over there, but you can't. Well, you could, but then you'd be taking a free strike from, say, like this heavy or light or whatever is actually there engaging you. Well, if you go and just spend that activation, again, this is making the assumption that you can't just simply kill it, or maybe you don't have the focus available to do all the things you need to do and kill it. Well, you can just headbutt it, it's knocked down, it's no longer engaging, and now that other piece is free to go off and do whatever it needs to and not be getting that free strike. So that can be pretty big as well. I think something to be throwing in that as well with those two easy ones is that sometimes it's good to knock something down just so that it won't be as effective next turn. Because in order to shake knockdown, you have to be spending a focus. And I mean, there's some things that don't even have focus. Let's say some of these really powerful combat solos that are going around there, like the Cav models, you can go up there, knock them down, and all of a sudden, they're not doing anything fancy. They're not charging anywhere. They're not doing anything like that. And even if it's something that does have focus, let's say it's gas before, you can go up there, knock down gas before, and then we know that next turn they're going to have to lose a focus in order to shake it. So in all those cases, it has to be something where it's really worthwhile doing that investment of a focus at least to knock them down, maybe two focus if you need to boost a hit, and then the fact that you are basically presenting them that heavy or light or maybe even colossal to get counterattacked on the following turn. So again, that's why these things don't happen all the time. However, when it does present itself, sometimes knowing when to do the right time to do a power attack can decide whether you're going to win that game or not. Now, the next one that I think comes up usually the most often, but is the harder to assess, is when you want to attack a model with a headbutt to knock it down to lower its defense. So this is a model with a crazy high defense, and you could be boosting to hit with every single punch, but you know what's better than that? Automatically hitting. But the problem is at what point is that actually viable? At what point do you actually want to be investing to be doing this power attack instead of just boosting those to hits? And I think the big thing to keep in mind is what you're investing and what potential attacks do you have following this after. So let's say, for example, you are having a regular heavy that has two initial attacks and walking in there with 3 focus. Well, okay, I could be boosting the hit with one, boosting the hit with the other, and then one more focus where I guess I could buy an attack, but because I'm assuming high defense, I might as well just boost one of my damages. So okay, that's one option. The other option in that one specific scenario is that that same heavy walks up, spends one focus in order to do a headbutt power attack. You pretty much want to hit, so you're going to be boosting the hit. So that's now 2 focus that you've done. Let's assume you hit and you knock it down, and then after that, well, you did that 1 damage roll. Remember, again, don't forget that damage roll, and usually things with high defense have really low armor, so that's good news. And then after that, you can buy 1 attack, which will hit because you're going to hit automatically because they're knocked down, and then you'll have a regular damage roll. So if we're looking at it, we're basically in the first scenario, if we're assuming we're hitting all of our attacks, either getting 2 attacks with 1 boosted damage or 1 attack with no boosted damage. So that's not really worthwhile. But let's look at another one where we're going in there with a heavy with only 1 really significant initial. Well, we can boost to hit with that one and then buy and boost again and to hit the other one. Well, then all of a sudden it looks a little bit better, right? We have 2 regular attacks and regular damage, and then the second one, a regular damage, and then there's still the power attack damage. So at least that's fairly even. So I think in that type of a case where we're thinking about how after they'll have to shake to get up, if they're trying to get somewhere else, that might be okay. But I think where the real benefit is like that's probably the point where it's like it's not really worth it. You know, it's you won't be really shaming yourself if you do it. If you have a heavy with 1 main attack and you go for that, 1 big headbutt and then off you go. But where you're going to be seeing the real advantages is after this. If you have it so that you're having 2 heavies going in, or this heavy, and then there's some other guns, or multiple attacks coming in after, well then obviously every single attack that comes in after that, that's now dealing with that much lower defense, you know, even if you're not auto hitting because it's knocked down, it's only defense 5, so you're really missing on double ones unless you're like the worst gun, you know, ranged unit in the game type thing. And so again, every single one above that then is going to be more and more worth it. So let's say, just for an example, I have a chance to get onto Ashland with 1 heavy, and then I got a unit of gun mages or something else that's behind me and ready, some other like ranged unit. Well, I could try to go in there and try and get those hits, and it probably wouldn't be doing very much. But if I knock Ashland down and all those other guns get the hit and she has pretty poor armor, well, then all of a sudden that could be doing some great work and might be a better setup for the assassination, or especially if there's another heavy going in. So I think when you're really trying to think about these things and trying to balance it, I would say if you're a heavy or a jack that has multiple main attacks, it's not really worth it. If you're a jack going in with 1 main attack, it's probably not the right thing to do unless you're trying to also stop it from going else and going somewhere else, and you're really trying to either control it or make it have to spend that focus to shake. And then if you have any more attacks going past that, that's where it's going to be definitely worth it. Now, something to keep in mind in here, and something that can definitely burn you, is that when we were talking about those things, we were assuming you were going to hit. And so one of the most biggest dangers here is that if you're going into something and you're needing to boost, and we're saying that even, let's say it's defense 17 and I'm a mat 6 jack, you know, just to throw something out there, and I need to get an 11 to hit, well, average dice for boosting is 10.5, so that kind of means that even normally, this is not going to happen. So again, this might kind of matter on what you're trying to get. If it's like an infantry model with hardly any boxes, and I just have to hit it once, and then it's dead, okay, boost to hit, don't even bother with a headbutt. If it's something else where it's like, okay, this is a super big heavy and I'm not even going to be destroying this turn, you know, if I'm not going to be able to line other things up, again, I just might as well be just like boosting to hit to try and get in whatever damage I can. So you really have to really factor in that risk and reward. I find that really, though, when the times that this is going to be obvious is when it's going to be obvious, right? One of those cases where I got a bunch of guns back there that would love to shoot, but I need to knock that thing down first. And the nice thing in those situations is that if you ever miss the power attack, they can always shoot something else. So it's not like you're really all in. I mean, your heavy's kind of there and in the way. I guess they have to spend time killing it, but at least you're not really going to lose a lot else, right? It's not like you're losing all those activations. But again, like in the case where you have 2 heavies going on to a high defense caster, it's pretty good odds then to go for that first knockdown so that you're definitely killing it and don't have to worry about doing all these boosted 11s or whatever it is for every single attack. So there you go. There's headbutts. You know, it's funny. I said at the beginning of this that this is one of the easiest ones to be dealing with. You walk up, you boost, the thing gets knocked down. But it's one of those things where you have to really keep in mind that there's 3 different situations that you might really want to do this, and one of them actually takes some real thought about whether it's the right time to even do it then. So again, it's one of these things where if you're not going to be using a headbutt attack in every single game, but if you go to a tournament with that knowledge in your head of how this rule works and you're looking for times that's actually the right time to use it, you just set yourself up for better success probability. So there you go. Thanks for watching. If I missed anything, if you want to call out my mother, whatever it is, post it down below. And otherwise, we'll catch you later. Bye.